Hey everybody, this is Greg, and I decided to do this video from home today instead of from my office, so you kind of can see some of the environment that I'm working in, because sometimes I go to the office and sometimes I stay home. It's one of the beauties of an online class. And also, as you can see, I'm dressed a little less formally because I'm just hanging out at home, getting some things done. So I got my Pearl Jam t-shirt on from a concert I went to in Chicago. It was pretty cool. Anyway, wanted to talk a little bit, first of all, about the powerful stuff that came through on the discussion board for the Rage Against the Machine song, where they talked about the idea of the in-house drive-by and that we're victims of the in-house drive-by. And basically, I just want to say that the basic message of that is to start being mindful of your purchases and how you're getting information, right? We are all locked in a system that's nearly impossible to extract ourselves from. Everything is built into this idea of privilege and disadvantage, and some people having privilege and some people having disadvantage based on where they were born, what social identities they have, all that stuff. And so it's important to remember that privilege exists. It's kind of fruitless to deny that it does exist, and to then look at how can we work to try to reduce this idea of privilege or try to even things out a little bit. And I know that sometimes, particularly white guys like me, can get a little bit defensive about some things related to privilege, but it's pretty well documented that people who are white or people who are male or people who are able-bodied have certain advantages over people who are a person of color, female, or maybe have a disability, right? If we look at all of those, there are clear advantages. It doesn't mean that there's any value to that necessarily, right? Just because you're privileged doesn't mean you're worth more or you're better. It just means that you've probably had more opportunities. And of course, there are exceptions. So keep those in mind and look for those exceptions, but also understand that it does make sense that some people have had privilege and some people haven't. This song is specifically about how we are pushed into the idea of government propaganda, right? We're given information by the government. Some of it is true, some of it isn't, and we have to try to figure out how to look at those things and how to figure out the truth. It's almost impossible sometimes because some people are privy to information that we are not to. So keep asking that question about how difficult is it to know the truth. For example, most people are, at least coming into this class, are not aware that there are 70 million people worldwide who have been forcibly displaced. And that a lot of those people are refugees or asylum seekers. That's a huge, huge number of people. So how is it that we get into college and suddenly we don't know this? Or suddenly we're introduced to this and we're like, whoa, that changes my worldview. That is a perfect example of privilege. It's not our fault that we weren't given that information, but we got to ask, why is that information withheld from us? Or why is it something that we maybe are not exposed to regularly? There are systems of equality that exist, and it's not because of anyone's fault necessarily. But once we're aware of that, we need to take some action to try to shift some things, right? So it's a call to wake up, take small steps in a new direction. One small direction that I'm taking is one of the students in the class alerted me to an apparel website that gives ratings for people or for companies in terms of treatment of workers, treatment of animals, and environmental responsibility. And a rating of 5 is really high. They're doing really good. It's hard to get a 5. I did find a 4, which is pretty good treatment of workers, pretty good treatment of animals, and showing some environmental responsibility. And I found that Dockers and Adidas are a couple of those that are pretty mainstream and pretty easy to get, that are being pretty responsible with their stuff. So I actually went and I was going to buy a belt this weekend, and I wanted to buy some socks. And so I went and I bought Adidas socks and I bought a Dockers belt, as opposed to other brands, because I'm trying to make more mindful purchases. And then I'm also looking into some of the more boutique places to maybe make some purchases on other things. So just keep that in mind. And remember that it is impossible to fully extract yourself from the system, since changes usually happen generationally, and we have to just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and making responsible decisions. So keep that in mind, and just a great job on that particular discussion. I thought it was super interesting. Thanks.